Hey there everyone, Hitesh here and I'm back again with another video. In this video, I would like to talk about top 5 programming language that you can pick up in 2019. If you're a beginner and want to get started in the programming journey, this video can be super helpful to pick up your favorite programming language. And this video is divided into 4 sections. In section number 1, I would like to share one experience of my interview at Amazon.com. I was able to successfully crack down that interview and was offered a job in the United States in Amazon. I would like to share this one question that was asked to me by every panelist in the Amazon interview. This should be known by every single programmer. Section number 2. In section number 2, I'll walk you through what influenced me while compiling this result. Obviously, this result cannot be simply by picking up your favorite programming language. There should be some influencing pointers which affects these kinds of results, and that is the reason why every single result in blog post or YouTube video is different. So what was the reason why I compiled this particular list? Section number 3. In the 3, we are actually going to talk about the meat part. What is my list of top 5 programming language? Not only the list, I will walk you through that why I picked up this language, how you can get started with that particular programming language, and the most important part, what product you will be able to design if you pick up that programming language. This is going to be super helpful for you if you know that what is my goal, and for that particular goal, what should be my programming language. I will also walk you through that how easy this language is in picking up the freelancing project as well as jobs in companies. Section number 4. In the section number 4, I would like to talk a little bit about data structure and algorithm, because I think that is also the important part which usually is been skipped in these kinds of top 5 lists. But still, I would like to take this. I won't be wasting much of the time in that, but still there are few key essential points that I would like to share about data structure and algorithms. So let's get started, and before we go ahead and start this video, let's roll the intro. One thing that every programmer should know, that when you give interview in these big companies like Amazon, Google, Facebook, and various others as well, there is not just one tech interview. There are multiple persons who are going to be taking the interviews because these companies cannot accept false positive. So when I was giving this interview to Amazon, there were 5 or 6 panelists there that were taking the technical interview, and all of them asked me this important question. What is the programming language of your choice in which you would like to give answers to our tech questions? Yes, all of them offered me to freely pick up my favorite programming language. They were not fighting over Java, over JavaScript, or Swift, or Python. They freely gave me the choice that feel free to pick up your programming language of choice and feel free to answer in them. Most of the big companies only care about the concept. If you know how a loop works internally and thoroughly, you can just make sure that that loop works in Java or JavaScript or Swift or C or C++. It's the bare minimum and the basic concepts that these companies are always looking after. So it doesn't matter what language you can pick up, still you can land up at a very good job in these big companies. So this is my experience. I think that every programmer should know about it. While making such list of top 5 programming language, every single person is influenced by some kind of things. And there is always a reason why you are making certain list. Now, while making this list, I was compiling the data, and especially the data that I looked up for was Stack Overflow and the market trends. Now, if you look at the Stack Overflow trend, the most popular technology, and in the recent 2018 survey, it was JavaScript was at the top, then HTML, CSS, and then SQL. Surely, this is not the whole truth and whole factor, because just a language is popular on Stack Overflow doesn't mean it has to be in the top list. So my criteria of having that were couple. First and foremost, how the language is doing at Stack Overflow. How many people are asking questions and how many people are searching for it. The most important factor was market trend. Obviously, when new frameworks or new technologies just get a little bit rise in the market, these technologies suddenly get in demand. So that was also another factor. Third and the most important factor was how easily or quickly you can make money with that language. I gave a lot of efforts in putting up the heavy zone onto quick freelancing, as well as onto top of that, how easily it is to get into the job into the small scale companies or the startups as well. So these are my criteria, but this doesn't mean that these languages are not good in getting the jobs at big companies. definitely they are equally good for that. So these are some of my criteria which I given the fact that these should be the judging points for picking up a language on these top 5 spots. And of course, these are not just the top 5 spots. I have also got 2 honorable mention that I think you should also look out for. The language that I've picked up for position number 5 can be a little bit surprising to many of you. And my choice at number 5 is PHP. A lot of people I have thought and I have seen in the comment section as well, and they always ask this question, is PHP a dying language? And that's completely opposite of that. PHP is not even a dying language. It's still one of the most popular language. And let me tell you what you are able to do with the PHP. PHP is a web-based language. This language is much more helpful if you know a little bit about HTML and CSS. Once you have learned that, then easily you can move on into PHP. Yes, of course, it's a most web-heavy oriented language. You will be using that mostly for web application or backend stuff for the websites. But this doesn't mean that this language is dying. This is still one of the most popular language. And if you'll go on to the websites like Freelancers or Upwork, you will see that these websites and the projects on these websites are still dominated by one big giant of internet, which is WordPress. And WordPress is totally designed in PHP. If you have a great mastery in PHP, you can offer your services quickly on these platforms and can earn pretty good amount of money. Now, not only the WordPress design and development, it is also something that you can do with the PHP, which is plugin development and theme development. You can take up any theme from probably Theme Forest or any other places which you like, and you can just kind of make exactly kind of a copy-ish of that theme and can convert that into a WordPress theme if you know ins and outs of PHP. It is a well-known fact that PHP and WordPress are still dominating the market. That means there are tons of people who are looking forward so that somebody can just install the WordPress and can customize their website, can deliver some plugin, and definitely there are a lot of job opportunities there. So definitely there is a demand of PHP developers there. But since PHP is so old language and so many developers are there, that means you have to give your A game there. There cannot be anything like okay-ish. You have to give your best shot. You have to get a very good knowledge in that. So the strategy that I would say to learn the PHP is really simple. First and foremost, get your hand dirty with HTML and CSS. Once you are able to design decent templates, then go and learn the PHP. PHP alone is not enough. PHP needs to be combined up with some kind of databases. It can be MySQL, all-time favorite, or can be MongoDB. So learn alongside with the PHP these databases and how these can interact with the databases and can serve things onto the front end. This can be your strategy on learning the PHP. Of course, make sure when you learn the PHP, all the syntax like functions, loops, and classes, you make at least 5 projects with PHP. Once you are done with that, offer your services on websites like Freelancer, Upwork, and say somebody that, hey, I am a PHP expert, this is my portfolio, would you like to give me your job? And definitely this language is so much easy in getting the jobs in nearby your area or doing just freelancing right at your home. My next choice for the programming language at position number 4 is Swift. Now, a lot of people might disagree from this particular choice if you are living in India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, or maybe a little bit Asian side of the continent. Now, the reason being is that this side of the market is dominated by Android. But still, iPhone and Apple are able to sell millions and millions of their devices. This means there are millions and millions of iPhone that requires a lot of apps. And in fact, whenever any app is launched, whether that's an Uber or maybe Swiggy or maybe any kind of app like Amazon or maybe Flipkart, they definitely require a version of their app in iOS ecosystem as well. Surely you can agree on the point that now a lot of people are moving towards the hybrid application or something like Flutter or React Native, but still the core essential knowledge of iOS engineer is always required in the company. The market of United States and especially Australia is still dominated by iOS, and since the iOS engineers are so less compared to the Android engineers, just kind of imagine how many people around you carry a MacBook. There are so many students who are working on still on the Windows device and don't know how the ecosystem of Apple works. So this means that the demand is definitely equally important in a variety of countries. Still, there are very few engineers who are serving as an iOS engineer. So definitely that can be a little bit onto not so straightforward path in learning iOS development, but still I would say Swift is one of the most powerful language, very popular among iOS ecosystem, and you can design tons of things in that, including iPhone apps, iPad apps, some games, some specific apps for the watches as well, the Apple Watch, and there's tons of things that you can do. It is little bit path that not everybody is going to take, but still, if you have money to buy some of the Apple devices, picking up the Swift programming language can be really, really amazing. But let me also tell you that this is not the cheapest option, because first and foremost, you need to have an Apple hardware, whether that's MacBook Air, MacBook Pro, or iMac or Mac Mini. All of them are a little bit on expensive side. On top of that, if you want to publish your apps, you require $99 per year license. I know that's a little bit more for the students, but it's a little bit different path. And if you are an iOS engineer, definitely the returns are equally good in that. The learning path for the Swift is pretty easy. You can get started Swift, and I would highly recommend only on the Apple devices. Once you're done with the Swift, start making iPhone apps. There are plethora of courses online available. There are pretty books available, and I'll link some of them in the description section as well. And at least until unless you make 5 apps, 5 complex apps that uses databases, don't consider yourself as an iOS engineer. And of course, on top of that, once you're finished with that, make sure at least you have one app that is published in the App Store. Then only you are ready with your portfolio that, hey, I am an iOS engineer. At position number 3, I would like to keep Java. Now, a lot of people might disagree with that. If you are living in United States or Australia, you might say, no, that language is not that much popular now. But if you're living in India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, or Asian side of it, you would totally agree with this list. Java is still one of the most dominant programming language, and its authority over a variety of domains is already proven. One of them is Android. Android is super simple to learn, and you can do so much of things with the Android application. With the recent involvement of Firebase and providing the ML kit, now you can use even machine learning technologies in Android as well. So the market of total Asia is dominated by Android, and once your app reaches even to like few percent of the people, you can do pretty great in the development. Since getting started in Android development through Java is pretty much easy, there are no such hurdle. That means a lot of people are doing it. That means you have to show up your A game into that. It's not like you can just make 2-3 apps and just publish 1 or 2 apps in the store and you'll be good to go. No, since there is a lot more competition, you have to pass on with your A game. And Java is not only about Android. I would say that in the Android, the knowledge of Java is bare minimum basic. You don't have to like deep down into that, but still just basics is fine. But Java is not only about Android. There are a lot of frameworks and libraries in Java that you can master and can easily get jobs in that. Couple of them are like Spring, which is one of the very popular one. There are Mavens and a lot of others as well, but one I would like to focus your attention is Selenium, which brings up and opens a whole lot door about the testings. I would probably discuss about the testing frameworks and testing jobs in later on videos, but definitely that is one of the amazing job and especially very popular in Indian subcontinent. So definitely through Java you can achieve all of that. Definitely one of the most popular and very powerful programming language. Moving at the number 2 position. At number 2 position, I'm going to keep easily JavaScript there. Now JavaScript is doing a whole lot more than actually it was designed for. Now still, when I say JavaScript, a lot of people think about the JavaScript, the messier language in which a lot of problem exist, like declaration of strongly typed keywords or probably this confusion and a lot of other things as well. But JavaScript is doing a lot more what it was actually designed for. When I say JavaScript, I'm going to be putting up the JavaScript and I will be talking about the JavaScript which is ES6 or ES7. Things like arrow functions, things like promises, and all these things I'm talking about that kind of JavaScript. JavaScript is definitely dominating the market, whether you talk about any field, whether that's mobile application development, web application development, components, framework, backend, it's doing a whole lot more. Now recently JavaScript has also made its entry into the world of machine learning and AI as well. Definitely this language is not something which you are seeing in the which you have seen in the really past. It's different now, it's totally different now. Some of the most common things which you can do after learning JavaScript is getting started in Angular, in React, in React Native, in Node.js, in Electron.js, and through which you can design desktop application, mobile application for Android and iOS. Of course, at the web, it is already dominant language, and through the Node.js, you can design and do a lot of stuff at the backend as well. Whether that's RESTful API or talking through database, JavaScript can do a lot here. But learning just the JavaScript is not at all enough. I would never recommend that. I would instead recommend first go through with JavaScript, understand the syntax, and then jump into any framework or library, whether that's React or Node.js or anything else. Make sure you are building up something with that. Creating something with the programming language is absolutely necessary. If you want to get started with JavaScript, I have an absolutely free playlist which I'll link down in the description section. Go through with that. It's one of the most comprehensive list over the internet on the JavaScript. We're going to get started from absolute basic, and it's pretty fun to watch. I know a lot of you have already guessed what can be the #1 programming language that you should watch out in 2019, and easily without any suspense, that's Python. Python is one of the most amazing programming language, and this is the programming language through which I actually came into love with the programming itself. I didn't study Python as my first programming language. I got started with C and C++, but when I came into the Python world, I was absolutely blown away. I absolutely loved this programming language. This programming language is absolutely favorite from the early time. In the early days, when machine learning was not that much popular, every pen tester and security auditor loved this programming language so much. Even the system admins and Linux guys always loved this programming language. Even the web developers also use Python a lot. A lot of websites and good prototypes and startups are being designed in Django simply because it is so easy to create a prototype and scale that up in Django. Django is one of the framework that you can easily master if you have the core basic knowledge of Python. Do I need to even say that? But still, I would say it. Python is one of the most used programming language whenever the term comes up as machine learning, artificial intelligence, data science, or anything at all. Yes, of course, R is also one of the programming language which is used quite a lot, but nowhere near as Python. With the recent popularity of Django and with the recent popularity of machine learning, easily Python takes one of the top spot in the 2019 top 5 programming language list, and I think many of you would agree here. If you want to get started with something machine learning, data science, AI, the path is actually really simple. First and foremost, get your hand dirty with Python. Know all about functions, loops, classes, and what this language actually can does. I would also recommend to watch a few videos where I have talked you through how you can do web scraping with Python, again absolutely available for free on this channel. Go through with that and learn what this language is and how adding third-party libraries can make this language super powerful. Once you are done with that, go through with the things like NumPys, Pandas, Seaborn, and Matplotlib. I know these are jargon words, but these are some of the most powerful Python libraries. Get your hand dirty with that. These all frameworks and libraries are the pathway to getting started in data science, machine learning, and AI. Surely it is very powerful field, very popular one nowadays, but it's not like for everyone. There are a lot of people who are still interested in web development, and there is nothing wrong in that. If you want to go into that side of that, Django should be the first framework that you should test out. Surely there is a Flask as well, but I would still recommend to go with the Django. Phew, the video is already too long, but still I would mention two honorable mention programming language that you should definitely watch out. Language numero uno is Golang. Now, Golang is a very powerful language, and I have seen a rise in the popularity, especially for the people who are working with big system or Google Clouds or something related to that. This is a language that definitely you can invest your time in, and surely you're going to be rewarded with that. I won't be talking much about that because I'm thinking to make a separate video on that, but definitely if you are even thinking a little bit about Golang, you will not go wrong with that. Language numero dos. So the second language that I would say that watch out in 2019 is easily C++. I've been into various conferences and I've seen that this language is again gaining a popularity. Now this is one of the most powerful and most versatile programming language, but still always, all the time in the popularity list, this language doesn't really make up to very high spot. But definitely this is one of the most powerful language I have ever faced or I have ever seen. Whether that's building up from Chrome to Microsoft Word, Excel, very powerful, very popular. Even you can design web applications in that, but I think that's probably a discussion for some other day. But definitely I would say C++, watch out for that. If you are trying to invest some time in that, you cannot go wrong with that. Students, people, and all the people who are watching this video. Now it's time to talk a little bit on data structure and algorithm. Now, if you will give interview in any big companies or probably in a small scale company as well, data structure and algorithms are given one of the top most priorities or importance in learning programming language. And that is absolutely true. But there is also a fact that everybody should know. Until and unless you know a programming language in depth, you should never start with data structure and algorithm. Now, this might sound a little bit contradictory, but let me try to put up my point and then you can go in the comment section and bash around. By the definition of the data structure and algorithms, the data structure is nothing much more. It is how you store your data and how you access your data. So for example, in any given programming language, whether that's C, C++, or Java, you're starting to learn data structure. In the data structure, what you learn is really simple. This is the set of data and I'm going to store that, and now I want to access certain element. Just take an example of that. Now there will always going to be 4 or 5 methods through which you can access that particular data. In the data structure and algorithm, you learn what is the most efficient way of accessing that data. That means you will be writing programs and you will be seeing the programs through 1, 2, 3 or probably 4 different ways of accessing that particular element. And that's basically your data structure. In data structure, you learn that how I can reduce the complexity and the runtime, working time, and how I can basically make my program more efficient so that the work that I want to do by 4 different methods, I need to pick just one. And that you pick up the one method through the knowledge of data structure and algorithm. Now, my point is, if you don't understand a programming language thoroughly and through in-depth, you are not even able to write a program in that language through just one method. How you're going to be able to understand the data structure and algorithm where you will be writing that same program in 4 different ways. So the whole story short for the data structure section. Yes, data structure and algorithm is one of the most important part that everybody should focus, but not for the beginners. First, pick up a programming language, understand that programming language. Build up a few projects in that so that you understand the things. If I say, hey, write this in this way, or write that using that loop, or write that using this condition, you should be comfortable in writing that program through the mentioned method. Once you are done with that, then go ahead and get started with data structure and algorithm. And yes, of course, never skip the data structure and algorithm. Pick up some of the good books. I'll recommend and mention this one book, and I'll link that in the description section as well. The really amazing book, and you should definitely read and give some time to data structure and algorithms as well. The video is definitely long, but what can I do? It's packed up with so much of the information, some of the paths that you can follow up, and list is there. So I wanted to make this video that it should not be just a list. I can definitely write that down in the comment section. A lot of you will be writing that down as well. I wanted to make this video fully packed with information and guidelines and pathway that you can follow to pick up your first programming language. Now I have 2 questions with you. First, do you agree with my list? If not, what should be the list according to you? Post down that in the comment section below. And question number 2, what is your favorite programming language? Let me know in the comment section below, and I would love to know what is your favorite programming language. That's it for this video. I hope you have enjoyed the content on this channel. I post videos a lot on this. Probably every single week I post 3 or 4 videos. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I'll surely catch you up in the next video.